Asante sana, nimefika ule muda ambao tulikuwa tunaongoja. Nikiwa wa kwanza kumwalika kiongozi wetu, naibu kiongozi wa vijana Sister Ivonne Anyango, nani anaunga mkono? Asante sana, karibu kiongozi.
Nawasalimu kwa mjambo. Nawasalimu kwa mjambo. Our theme of today says lifting the fallen in the city. Our theme of today says lifting the fallen in the city. And we got our reading from the book of Matthew, chapter number 11, verse 19. If I may paraphrase, it says, and then when they saw Jesus talking or walking to the sinners, they referred him as a glutton. If somebody tells you you are a glutton, it means number one, you are foodies. Unapenda chakula sana. Si ndio? Number two, unapenda vinywaji. Kama gani? Yeah? Yes. So they referred to Jesus as a glutton. And they say, the Son of Man came and drinking, and they say, I look a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. Suppose Jesus comes to Molen. Atatembea na nani? Suppose Jesus comes now. Whom will Jesus talk to, or whom will Jesus mingle with? Yes? Who is this sinner? Yes? Who's the sinner? The sinner is you and me. So when these Pharisees and the scribes saw Jesus walking and mingling with these people, they regarded themselves as holy people who could not even interact with the sinners. They could not even interact with the tax collectors. The tax collectors are us now today. We are also sinners. We have sinned and gone astray in the eye of the Lord in one way or the other. But suppose Jesus comes today, will you be able to point to Jesus when you see him addressing a multitude of sinners? And to my surprise, remember these were the teachers of the law, like our elders. There are certain things that when you do, an action will be taken immediately, right? Without them judging themselves. That is where we are. Jesus came to mix with the sinners. And who are these fallen in the city? Are you a fallen in the city? Am I a fallen in the city? The fallen in the city are the street families. How much time do you take to intermingle with the street families? Do you take your time, even once a day or once a year, to get to know these street families? They walk here and there. Some are even walking as far as towards your gates and doors. They see you littering the leftovers. You keep, you eat, and the leftovers you do what? You throw. You have enough in your family, or you have enough in your house, but you cannot ask whether your neighbor slept hungry or not. Do we do that? We don't do that. Because we are in the city. You don't know me, I don't know you. Most of our neighbors in the family in the cities are going without food. They are undergoing various frustrations. But do we care? We don't care. What we value are our education, whereby we intermingle with the same class. Another thing, we value our education so much rather than valuing the marginalized people in the city. Most of us value their families. You find, like now, we are approaching Easter holiday. How many people have planned to travel? Okay. We are not traveling. Right. We value our family, we put our families first before we look at others. And yet these people, we have been placed with with them, together with them, so that Lord's action in us may be shown upon them. Another group of the fallen people are the orphans. Even in our church, we have most people are orphans, especially the children. Is there any day the church has called these orphans and give them a message of hope? Or we just meet in the church and in the afternoon we walk away? We don't value the orphans. We don't value the divorced families. There are so many divorced families in the city, especially where we are, and even in our churches. We don't care because our families are okay. Don't worry. A time will come whereby it will be vice versa. We don't value the widows and the orphans. These are the fallen in the city. We don't value, we don't care the widows and the orphans because we seem to be so special than them. God is calling us today that we are supposed to intermingle with these people since His coming is just at the door. And when Jesus comes today, we will be among the people who will receive God in His glory. So, I'm surprised these people regard Jesus as a friend of sinners. Imagine somebody referring you to a friend of sinners. How will you feel? Jesus will have approached people with broken hearts, such as the ones that we have looked. We have all broken hearts. And it is the right time that our elders, our church as a whole, me and you, we are supposed to take up this message and approach these people with a broken heart. It is not a must that you stay with them forever, but at least take the time, find out how they live, and support where necessary. Because I know we are all blessed. Are we not blessed? Yeah. Are we not blessed? Yeah. We are, yes. For Jesus to be a friend of sinners means that He is our friend and is waiting for us to acknowledge His presence and willingness. Just imagine Jesus is just there at the door, knocking for you to open for Him the door. And whenever you open for Him the door, He will enter and dine with you. How happy will it be? And before you do that, kindly set an example. You are the Jesus, because we are the light, isn't it? We are the light, and we partake the position of Jesus. So let us show the presence of willingness and acknowledge these people in their state. And it's also quite interesting that the title "Friend to Sinners" was given by religious leaders. They forgot the name of Jesus. How many times do you forget the names of our elders? How many times do you forget the name of a departmental leader? How many times do you forget the name of your church member, and yet you've been with him? Remember, they are now referring to Jesus as a friend to sinners. Look, instead of saying, look, Jesus is dining with sinners, they assume that they didn't know him. How many times have you ever seen people? How many times have you ever seen people? How many number of times have you ever been talking about people in negative ways? And yet, on Sabbath, we are all here as angels, walking to heaven. No heaven for you. They criticize him for spending time with the marginalized and society and unacceptable people. And that is why they call him a friend of sinners. Let me bring this example. Let's say a youth, like me, a lady, has maybe, when you see me pregnant, for example, or any youth lady pregnant, what will be the first thing to say? Before you reach me, you must gather women and challenges, especially the youth. We are really undergoing a lot of challenges. Instead of coming and asking, you go ahead and put negative remarks, then all of a sudden, you will hear the religious leaders, like the times of Jesus, calling you that there is an urgent meeting, not knowing that you are the main agenda. Let us read the book of John chapter 8 verse 11. The book of John chapter 8 verse 11. Kindly let us save time.
Akamwambia, nasema, akamwambia, hakuna Bwana Yesu, hakuna Bwana. Yesu akamwambia, wala mimi sikuhukumu, enenda zako wala usitende dhambi tena.
It talks about the adulterous woman. The adulterous woman who was caught in the act. And instead of these people sitting with him, with her, down, they went straight to where Jesus was. And they wanted to do what? They wanted to kill her. Ni mara ngapi umeipanga kuua mtu kwa mdomo? Ni mara ngapi umeipanga as if you see me as your greatest enemy na unanisalimia? That is really happening in the church of today because the world is coming to an end. But remember, Jesus told him, sin, go and sin no more. May this be our word today. If you see a youth, if you see our ladies or even our males in the church who have erred, the best thing to do is to talk to them rather than going spreading. And I don't know if this is what we are spreading in the city. Instead of spreading the words of hope, you are giving the words of discouragement, and that is why you find most people are getting baptized within 2 to 3 months. They get lost and we don't care. So when lifting up the fallen in the city, we may be forced to close our ears on what people may say about us. If you are ready to lift a fallen in the city, be ready to close your ears because people will talk about you. Nowadays they say, tell me your friend and I will show you who you are. If you see me walking with a Rasta person outside, how will you judge me? Yes? You will start putting some naughty comments that will discourage me from getting close to that person. Close your ears if you want to live a fallen in the city. Number 2, as a Christian, which stories have you been using to throw people away? A question to us as a Barigema. Which stones? Remember, these people were ready to stone the woman. Now back to our church. Which stone have you been using to throw people in the church? Umekuwa ukitumia mawe gani kutoa watu katika kanisa? Umekuwa ukitumia jiwe gani to criticize the leadership in the church? Umekuwa ukitumia jiwe gani to talk about the youth who are ready to enter and the fold of Jesus Christ? Nowadays we never find youth in the church. Why? The stones that we use them or on them drives them away from the Creator. So I don't know the kind of stones, I don't know which words you have been speaking about your friend or your fellow, but only God knows and will be judged accordingly. How many stones? How many times have you thrown the stone to people? It may be once, it may be twice, it may be as many as possible. How many times have you thrown the stones to people in the church. You may find an elder making an announcement here, for example, and then you start murmuring in the church. That spirit, it is not a spirit, but it is the stone that those people wanted to use to kill that woman. I don't know the stone that you always use when talking against somebody. I don't know. But you know, wherever you are, we have been using stones. But kindly, if you have the stone, use it in a correct way. Tumia hilo jiwe kuleta watu katika zizini. Ndio maana tuliweza kuimba our song number 100. Kuwatafuta wasioweza. Nitasoma maneno. The second stanza. The third stanza. Kazi hiyo nataka kufanya. Leo nimesikia mwito kuwainua waangukao walete kwake Yesu njia. Wewe wakati Mungu inakwambia unastahili kuwainua waangukao, badala uwainue unawafanya nini? Unawaangusha. Is there any benefit as a Christian? Is there any benefit you get from throwing the stones? Jiulize, is there any benefit? Ukishaka mtu kwa katika zizi hili, what do you benefit? Au unataka uachiwe those chairs? Do you want to occupy the church alone? I don't know the benefit you are getting. Unapata like now, tukitoka church, watu wako katika vikundi. What they are discussing, the leadership of the church, they are discussing the youth, the women ministry, the elders, everybody, not thinking that you are pure. No one is pure in the eyes of the Lord. And that is why he came to seek and save the lost, of which ni sisi. How can you believe, or how can I believe that God lifts up the fallen? Do you believe, or do I believe that God can lift up the fallen? It's quite unfortunate. Kuna mtu ako katika usingizi na plastic chair ya hospitali. How do we believe that God lifts up the fallen? He lifted up the adulterous woman. That is what we have read from the book of John, chapter 8, verse 11. He lifted up that woman. Instead of talking, Jesus had to close his ears and do some writings on the ground. And all of a sudden, how watu wakafanya nini? Wakadisappear. They also realized that they have sinned and they needed this man, Jesus. Another thing, or we can't believe that God lifts up the fallen because he lifted up the paralytic man at the pool of Bethesda. So we must hide our identity. If you want to bring these people who are lost in the city, number one, I'm saying you have to close your ears. Whatever people will say, just assume if you want to be saved or if you want to lift up this fallen in our city. Then number two, you must hide your identity. After bringing this lost person in the church, you are not supposed to come here in the pulpit and tell us, oh, you know, brought 10 people. None of our business. Our business is that we are fighting for salvation. Let us read the book of John, chapter 5, verse 13, and get the answer that Jesus gave.
The Bible says in the book of John, chapter 5, verse number 13, but the one who was healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had withdrawn, a multitude being in that place.
The man did not know. Why do you think if Jesus was interested, angetaka mtu amjue, angemkataza? Because the man was also willing to know who is this person who has the power to heal him? Imagine he has been in that pool for 38 years, waiting for the water. But once the water was stopped, people were doing what? People would go fast and leave him there. I don't know how many years you have been in that pool. You have been in the pool of poverty. You have been in the pool of depression. You have been going through a pool of financial constraints. You have been going through a pool of various challenges. I don't know which pool you are struggling to get out of. But may this Sabbath, God lift you as one of the fallen people in the city. Another thing, we find that God lifted up Zacchaeus, who was the tax collector. When this man heard that Jesus was coming in the city, Jesus used to walk in the city to mingle with the sinners. But the teachers of the law were against it because they saw themselves as the pure. So when this man Zacchaeus heard that Jesus was passing through, he went and climbed a sycamore tree. His main interest was to see Jesus or to meet Jesus. What is your main interest today in the church? Is your interest to meet Jesus plus the people whom you found in the church, or your interest is to drive away the fallen sheep, the sheep who have entered into the fold, so that this church may be left for you? When you read that book of Zacchaeus of Luke, chapter 19, verse 1 to 10, of which I'll just summarize. When Jesus saw this man, imagine he was the shortest. He was spiritually short. If you have been reading these books, Zacchaeus was spiritually short. Hakuwa anajua Mungu sana. But wakati alisikia kwamba Mungu anapita, alikuwa na tamaa ili amwone huyu Yesu. Anakaa aje, anaponya aje, how does he mix with the people? And immediately Jesus saw him. Alimwambia aje? Yes? Come down. Today I will dine with you. Today I will dine with you. And immediately Zacchaeus said that, alishuka chini haraka akaenda akakutana na nani? Akakutana na Mungu wake. If Jesus calls you today to come and dine with him, what will make you or what will hinder you from meeting Jesus when in case he comes today? If you meet Jesus today, because remember our theme of today of this year says showing up in the cities. Okay? If suppose Jesus has come to show up in the city today, will you be among the people whom Jesus will lift up? Will you be among the people whom Jesus will take home? Will you be among the people who will receive the eternal life of Christ when he shall come? Or you will be one of those people who will be left or who will be thrown in the burning fire due to what you have been doing in the church, what you have been talking about the church, and also rebelling in the church. Yes, there is rebellion in the church. Hakuna? No, maybe not here, but in most of our churches, there is a lot of rebellion. People are rebelling towards the leaders. People are rebelling towards various things that may benefit the church or may draw us closer to God. Now, when I'm finalizing, I would like to ask you that, what does people show up in the city? What does people show up in the city? We have seen how Jesus was lifting the fallen ones in the city, and I say that for you to put yourself in that shoe of Jesus, you must close your eyes, and number two, let your identity not be known. But nowadays, what do people show up in the city? Number one is their education. After the results of which I thank God we don't do KCPE. Mngesikia mzazi anasema, mtoto wangu ameipa sijui wapi. Naenda kumtafutia shule. So that the story start could be heard once the results are out. They don't even have time to discuss the lesson. What is discussed in that house or in that family? Unapata baba ameweka kijana chini na mama wako kwa meza discussing the best school and forgetting the what? To carry out even the Bible study or a prayer. Number 2, we are showing up our families. There are certain people in a certain occasion, if they are not recognized, they are not worshipped. If you are not identified in a congregation, that is an offense and must ask outside. I think I'm talking facts. And they normally sit in a position whereby the person who is welcoming people must see them. We are not going to heaven, please, if you are showing up those people. The family of so greet us. And for you to be recognized in the congregation, they must look at your pockets. Hata kwa mchango, utasikia wanauliza wanafanya kazi gani? Anaweza toa ngapi? Those are what people ask normally. Please let us try to standardize or let us try to lift up even these people who maybe are not financially stable. At least they will feel the presence of God. We also show up fashion in the city. If you walk around, you will see different dressing codes for both males and females. There was a day I found one of my friends wearing these trousers. Right, then I asked him, "Why you put ajali?" In fact, I was ready to buy him another trouser or any other outfit. And I was ready to replace fashion. The God of fashion is here with us. Or we are showing up our different designs. Another thing that you normally show is wealth. Watu wanaonyesha mali. You come outside here. There are so many buildings. People are showing up their wealth. Na Nairobi kumbuka usipojenga wewe si mkazi wa Nairobi. Yeah. So people are trying in as much as they earn their salary, at least they are doing some work that can be seen, so that wakikuja na marafiki zao, instead of discussing what can take them to heaven, they show their wealth that they have. People are showing money, their vehicles, and many others, even the buildings. Then lastly, we are showing up our work or our job. Unakutana na mtu anakwambia unajua mimi nafanya kazi fulani. Hata hujamuuliza. We are showing up our exposure. That is not good. Let us try, instead of involving ourselves in these all activities of which they are not bad, but let us not forget to lift up the vulnerable in the city. Let us not forget to lift up the fallen in the city. Let us not forget to bring people back to Christ, because His coming is just at the door. His coming is just at the door. Stanza 2 says, kuwatafuta wasioweza. Hawa wasioweza ni kina nani? Ni mimi na wewe na wale ambao wako mle nje. Usikae hapa wewe ni mkamilifu au mtakatifu kabisa. Tafadhali tuendelee kuhimizana tukitafuta uso wa Bwana. Kuwatafuta wasioweza waonyeshwe Mwokozi wetu. Here at Modern, there are so many people who have not known Christ, and it is the right time, or this devotion came to us as youth, so that we may show up by bringing these people unto the fold of Jesus Christ. idling, especially on Sabbath. Not that they don't have something to do, but they don't have anywhere to worship because they have not been shown the way of Christ. So it is your duty, it is my duty to bring these people back to Christ and kuwaongoza wapate wote uzima wa milele. Usiache hata mmoja akose kupata uzima wa milele. Let us lead these people and lift them up so that when Jesus comes to heaven, when Jesus comes back, he may take all of us to heaven.